This is episode 329 of the Beyond the Food Show, and today I'm taking you behind the scene and I'm sharing the success I have created over the last 6 years of being coached and the lessons that I learned. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Going to Beyond the Food Show, the only podcast that teaches you how to reshape your mind, not your body, to make your life better, bigger, and bolder. Your undieted life. I'm your host, Stephanie Dozier, reformed dieter, nutritionist, and coach. You ready? Let's do this. Hello, my sister. Welcome back to the podcast. I want to share with you, first of all, the amazing response we've had for Enough, the Masterclass. Thank you so much for the positive response, and the registration are well underway. At the time of recording here, I don't know when you're going to listen to this, but we haven't yet sold out. So we have 200 tickets available. I don't know how many there's left by the time you're listening to this, but if you want to come, you better jump in because I don't know when we're going to sell out. What I'm going to share today is actually in relationship to that masterclass. I'm going to share the success that I have created in my own life because of the tool that I'm going to teach inside of this masterclass. Quick reminder that this masterclass is actually over 2 days, is a total of 6 hours of teaching and practicing. So that's one thing to know if you're thinking of coming to the Enough Masterclass. It's not a lecture style. It's actually you learning quickly the tool and then practicing, and actually doing the work of changing your self-belief, your belief about yourself, because that's what enough is about. Most of us don't feel enough. And I want everyone leaving the masterclass after the second day not feeling not enough anymore and knowing exactly what they need to do to fuel this new belief about themselves. And also, we're going to think about a new way of thinking about goals, because most of us have a distorted way of thinking about goals because of diet culture. I'm going to teach you a new way, a reframe around goal and how to pursue your goal so you actually have fun pursuing your goals, which is what I'm doing. This is how I'm creating success in my life and in my business, is by having fun pursuing goals. So I'm going to teach you to do all of that in that masterclass so you can easily move towards living your better, bigger, bolder, undieted life. So if you want to come, it's everywhere on my social media, in the show note. You can go to stephaniedozier.com/enough. And if you're listening to this after September 16th, that's when the registration closed, you missed it. Maybe. I don't know. At this point, we're not planning on selling the recording, but maybe come and check out our website. But you can jump inside of Undiet Your Life, which is going to reopen on September the 18th to come do this work with us. Now, today's topic is about what the success that I experienced because of coaching. And I want to give you the behind the scenes as to how this podcast episode actually came to life. I'm working on a project for 2023, next year. It's a revolutionary way of thinking about business. So I currently have 2 online businesses. This one, Undiet Your Life, and also I'm training professional in a non-diet approach, and both have hit 6-figure. Both are very successful, and I'm doing business in a completely different way. And I'm taking what I'm thinking about business and how I'm approaching business in a non-oppressive way. And I'm building a course, I'm building a process, a container, so that people who want to build businesses in this way, in a non-oppressive way, in a way where you can trust yourself, you don't have to rely on gurus and experts, can come into this container. That's a 2023 project. But as I'm writing the curriculum and coming up with the exercise and the practical aspect of this business, one of the exercise is what I'm going to share today. One of the exercise that I'm getting people to do, I'm actually testing this curriculum with my mastermind. That's another part of my business. I run a mastermind with self-identified people as women. So women who operates business in the non-diet space. I have a mastermind with them and I'm testing that with them. And one of the exercise that I had them do was to sell themselves on the value of coaching, because that's their product. Their product is coaching. So I had them sit down for half an hour and write down in a way that they can sell the value of coaching to other people. And while they were doing it, I actually did it for myself. And I broke my own brain. I broke my own brain of how much success and lessons that I learned from being coached over the last 6 years and how much I have changed. Like, I'm a completely different person today than I was 6 years ago. And that's what I want to share with you. I want to share with you how this came to life in my life. And I know there's a lot of new listeners to the podcast here. I think I'm going to have to do a story podcast next to explain my story. I'm not going to take you through my entire life story on this podcast. I'm going to go at it more specifically over the last 6 years. But I want to kind of give you a background for those of you who are new here. I have been in the business of helping and coaching women over the last 10 years. But prior to that, I'm 47. So from the age of 22 to 37, I had another career. And that career was in the corporate world. And that's when I was introduced to coaching. Now, it was a completely different kind of coaching that I'm doing today, teaching, practicing, and being coached. But still, for the last 10 years of the 15 years in the corporate world, I had an executive coach in one format of another for the 10 years, the last 10 years of my corporate career. And coaching taught me how to lead. And it taught me how to navigate a world, the corporate world at the time, 10 years ago, created for men. So I'm a self-identified woman. And in the corporate world, I was a young woman. So I was a glass ceiling breaker, as they call them. I don't know if they still call them that in the corporate world today, but that's what I was. And I think that's part of the reason why I had a coach for 10 years is because I was the oddball in every single room I was in. And I was disturbing and unwillingly disturbing the structure of the corporation I was working with because I didn't fit the mold. So I think that's the reason why they gave me a coach, so I can be fitting the mold. And that's what coaching did for me. It allowed me to fit the mold. It allowed me to contort myself to fit the corporate world with less disturbance. And I was freaking good at it. I became really, really good at adapting me as a woman to the world of men. And that's why I did so well. It's because I was a man in a body of a woman. So although externally I looked different, I came to a point where I was thinking, behaving like men. So I wasn't disturbing the room as much. Now, that is not the right way of coaching. I now know that, and I've lived through the side effect of that. Really got me, I literally collapsed emotionally, mentally, physically at 38 years old because of that constant contortion that I needed to do, that I was trained to do to fit the world. But they loved me in the corporate world because I created massive value. Coaching got me to create massive amount of value, which in the corporate world means loads of money, right? And I did that really fast. I started as a part-time cashier in the retail outlet of that company in 1997 as a part-time cashier. And 12 years later, I was a vice president. And I was operating a division, all the retail stores of the company, that had a budget of more than $100 million. I did that in 12 years. I would have never been able to do that, to climb that corporate ladder without coaching. like 100% transparent. That's what coaching did for me. Now, it got me really sick because the coaching model was terrible. It was about suppressing women, being a woman. But I would have never climbed the ladder, made the amount of money I made for them, would I have not had coaching. So coaching in my life has been present since the age of 25. Now, after collapsing physically, emotionally, mentally, I left the corporate world and I came to the world of health coaching. I went back to school, got a degree in nutrition, and here's what happened. The first 4 years of me trying to build a business, I was a bit cocky and I was like, no, I can do this on my own. This is so easy. I don't need a coach. And to be honest, I was afraid of investing in myself because here's the thing, in a corporate world, I never paid a dime for a coach. It was supplied by my employer. And then when I came to be on my own, now that was an expense that I had to do on my own. And I didn't see the value of it. I had a lot of money mindset issue because the way I was making money was vastly different. I didn't make as much money. All that to say that for 4 years, I didn't have a coach. And finally, 4 years later, I actually hired a coach, which is 6 years ago, roughly around today. That's when my transformation, that's when successes, that's when wins started to rapidly come into my life. Because I decided, because I took the risk of investing in myself to pay out of my pocket this time for a coach. And my first coach that I hired was an intuitive eating coach. I was trying to do intuitive eating on my own. It wasn't working the way I wanted to. So I hired the best intuitive eating coach, which is the author of the intuitive eating book. And I became certified as an intuitive eating counselor. And literally in 3 months of working with her, like all the blocks that I had around intuitive eating vanish. I became a certified intuitive eating counselor, but I was still struggling with gaining weight and how I was thinking about my body and my body image. So I hired a coach, but I hired a fat woman that looked like me, that thought like me, that talked like me, that was like strong head, outspoken woman. And I hired her to help me with body image because of the success she herself had created in accepting her own body and all the things she had in her life. And that coach got me to a place very rapidly of being body neutral. And then she taught me a lot more. I worked with her for almost 2 years and she propelled me and she taught me how to use my brain, at first with my body image, but then with every other part of my life, including my business, so I can create success everywhere in the way. Now, here's the caveat, it was a feminist coach. So she taught me how to coach myself and then how to coach other people on how to create success in their life without having to contort myself to fit patriarchy or fit diet culture or fit any oppressive system. So it really changed the way that I was interacting with my client and with myself. And that's what I teach today, right? And here's, I'm going to share my first lesson that if I was to recap working with this coach for almost 2 years, I think it's probably her who said that to me at some point, but I'm going to say it this way. If I had to say the number one lesson from hiring a coach or being coach is a coach is hired by your dream so you don't fuck it up. Like, that's it. If you want to recap the benefit of coaching in one sentence, that's it. You hire a coach because you're dreaming of something in your life and you want to get there without taking years and you don't want to fuck it up. You want to do it right, fast, and quickly. The next lesson that coaching taught me, which I now apply to all the program that I do, it's a coaching container. It's a space. When you invest in coaching, that it is one-on-one or group coaching, you invest in being in a space that holds the belief of your own possibility until you can get there. When I hire a coach, I want the coach to believe in me more than I do. I want my coach to hold the space of my goal and how it's possible for me until I can believe in it myself. That's why for 6 years, I've been able to create the success that I have because I always have a container, a human being who believe in my possibility more than I do. I'm always in a coaching space constantly because I want to grow personally and I want to grow in my business. So I need someone in a space to hold that possibility for me. Here's the third biggest lesson for me. Coaching allowed me to constantly live in my agency, in my power. Why? Because coaching taught me how to use my most powerful organ in my body, my brain. In order for me to be in my agency, I need to know how to use my brain and I need to know how to process my emotion. Otherwise, I will not be in my agency, because that's what the human brain is created to do, is to keep you safe. And as a woman, it's not safe for me, especially as a fat woman. And if you own other oppressed identity, it's even less safe for you into the world. You have to constantly be in your agency to claim the space that is not allowed for you to be in. And the only way to do that is by using your brain and thinking very intentionally, not thinking like your brain was conditioned to think, which is to say small, because that's what our brain are conditioned to think. Small equals safety. So if you want anything out of the ordinary, you have to live in your agency. And the way for you to live in your agency is through thinking intentionally in order for you to claim the space that you want to be in. And that's what coaching does so well, that you are hiring a coach, you are in a group container, or that you learn how to coach yourself. Self-coaching framework here. Coaching allows you and allowed me to see how I created pattern in my life. I bet you there's a ton of pattern you have in your life, but you don't know why they keep happening. Well, I gotta tell you, coaching will show you exactly how you keep repeating the same pattern and how to get out of it. Here's an analogy for you. Being coach, either by yourself or with a one-on-one coach, is like getting a master degree in your own human behavior and understanding yourself, therefore your brain and your emotion. You get to understand why you keep repeating the same pattern and how to undo them. Most of my success today, that it is in the business world, both of my businesses being over 6-figure, which by the way, I was looking at a stats a couple days ago. If you're a business owner, only 12% of women-owned businesses hit a revenue of 6-figure or more per year. All types of businesses blend in. Only 12% of women-owned business hit 6-figure. I got 2 of those. 2 businesses that hit 6-figure. And just to say this, and when I was writing this, that's like mind-blowing to me. Like, I'm really taking you in my brain right now, but when I think about 6 years ago doing a vision board, it's actually 7 years ago I did a vision board and I put on it a picture of someone working on their laptop on the side of the beach. And that was just to put the picture on the vision board, to be a digital nomad. That alone was scary. And when I was writing this exercise, to realize that I've been living my life as a digital nomad, that was my dream 7 years ago, and have been living it for the last 2 to 3 years. That breaks my mind. It breaks my mind to think that 7 years ago, I thought that was absolutely ridiculous that I could ever do that. I'm actually living in it now. None of this would have been possible would I had stayed thinking the same old thoughts and running away from my emotion that I was 7 years ago. That is a massive lesson from coaching, and it's a tool that I will always have with me. And I want to talk about emotion right now, because that's the other big lesson of coaching. Coaching taught me how to master my emotion instead of coping with them. All of my patterns, right? The first few coaches that I hired were very specific to the pattern that I had acquired because of diet culture. Think about distorted relationship to food, distorted relationship to exercise, distorted relationship to my body. It was all acquired because of diet culture. And it was acquired because there was so much suffering for me for the first 39 years of my life because of the way I was thinking about my body and thinking about myself and not fitting the thin ideal. There was a shitload of emotional suffering there. And I created all kinds of pattern to cope with my emotion because I didn't know how to cope with that suffering. So I binged. I overexercised. I didn't exercise at all. Like all of these things were created because I didn't know how to cope with my emotions. So when I came to the world of coaching 7 years ago, not the coaching in the corporate world, they did not talk about emotion in the corporate world. That was like a forbidden topic. We do not talk about emotion. We hide our emotion. So I almost had a PhD in numbing, avoiding my emotion. So when I came to the world of coaching 7 years ago, that was like so transformative for me to learn that you can actually feel your emotion, that you can actually process them and not die. Like you can be with shame and not die off shame. That was like phenomenally revolutionary for me. Like if you don't know that and you're hearing that right now, like go get yourself someone who can teach you how to do that. That's what we do in Undiet Your Life. But if that is not for you, if you don't want to work with me, cool. Go work with someone else and learn how to process your emotion. Because all the pattern you want to change in your life, all the things you want to have in your life are sitting on the other side of you mastering your emotional world. Because when you don't master your emotion, you do like me. You react to life. And life is your emotion. You constantly react to your emotion. You're being the victim of your emotion and of your thinking. And your entire life is designed to avoid, to numb your emotions. So being able to not do that is how you change pattern and you create what you do not currently have in your life. You can do that with a coach, but you can do that on your own. That's what I call the process of self-coaching, is learning to be a coach to yourself so you can teach yourself and coach yourself through emotion. And for me, right now, today, as I'm recording this, I have a one-on-one coach. We're specifically hired her in order for me to change my patterns around work and scheduling. But she's not coaching me throughout my whole life because the rest of my life, right, that we're talking about traveling or my business, I use self-coaching to process my emotion, to look at my thoughts, to create new belief, specifically around my business, and how to catch decision that I'm about to make that are not leading me towards where I want to go. And that is done through the process of self-coaching. Self-coaching allows me to fight for my own possibility. Self-coaching allows me to hold my goal, where I want to go, what I want to create, and design a path to get there. And everywhere, it's about fighting for the possibility of reaching my goal. Self-coaching helps me witness my self-critical thinking and self-criticism because it still happens. I have a human brain who's designed to criticize me. and to keep me small and to keep me safe. I have to see that. I have to catch it and then change it. That's self-coaching. Self-coaching is a mirror. It's allowing me to have a mirror inside of my brain and offers me constantly a different perspective. It allows me to see my blind spots, what I'm not seeing because I'm caught up in my own thinking. When I decide to hire a coach or go in a group coaching container, I'm paying for someone to see what I'm not seeing, right? There's so much I can see when I'm coaching myself. When I pay for someone else to coach me, I'm paying for them to see my blind spot that I'm not seeing, that is holding me, and to call out my own bullshit. Like every time I hire a coach, we have a discussion on the very first session. And I'm writing them a blank check. I'm giving them full on permission to call my bullshit. And I'm telling them, like, I'm paying you to call my bullshit. So you better do that. This is how much I believe in coaching. And I'm able to do that. I'm able to give them that full out permission because no matter what they say to me, I can handle it. I will use their feedback positively by being kind and compassionate to myself, learning from their feedback and applying so I can get to my goal faster. Why do you think all professional athletes, all professional teams, all Olympians have coaches? Why? Because they need someone else to guide them, to tell them how to be better, how to get to their goal faster, how to make the most points. So if you want, like I want, a bigger, a fuller, a bolder life, you need someone or a process to show you how to get there. You can't rely just on the human brain with this conditioning to get you to that bigger, fuller, and bolder life. I'm going to share that last lesson, and I'm going to close on this. Coaching is what helps me experience more out of my life. And experiencing more out of my human experience without willpower, discipline, and suffering. I'm going to do a full comeback to the beginning of the podcast. That is the difference with life coaching in the way that I do it, in the way that I'm being coached. The environment of coaching that I'm in is about me experiencing more of my life, of getting to my goal without suffering, without making myself smaller. I'm inviting you, if you don't have a coach, if you're not in a coaching container, to join us. Either to join us in Enough Masterclass, to experience that and to learn how to coach yourself and decide if you want to come in a group container after. If that is over by the time you're listening to this episode, I'm inviting you inside of Undiet Your Life to be in a coaching container to help you reach your goal faster, easier, and without suffering. And if you're a professional in the non-diet space, which I know a lot of you listening, you need to come over to Undiet Your Coaching because my coaching containers there are specifically designed for professionals building businesses. I love you, and I'll see you on the next podcast episode, or perhaps in one of my coaching containers. If you are loving what you're learning on the podcast, you have to come and check out Undiet Your Life. This is where we get to hang out together, where you get the individual help applying the concept thought on the podcast while learning new coaching tools that will make your life even more amazing. It's also where you get to apply the learning to think better, eat better, and feel better, and create your undieted life, your better, bigger, and bolder life. Go to stephaniedodze.com/join. I'd love to have you join us inside of Undiet Your Life, and I'll see you on the other side.